Hey everyone! How many times have you found yourself staring blankly at that screen full of charts, numbers flashing incessantly, and that desperate, agonizing feeling that everything could change at any moment? The financial markets are playful, aren't they? They promise freedom, independence, and prosperity. But why do only 10% of traders achieve consistent results, while 90% end up quitting or losing money? The answer isn't in secret indicators or magic strategies, it's in your mind. Mark Douglas, one of the foremost experts in trading psychology and author of the classic Trading in the Zone, discovered something revolutionary. Lasting success in the market doesn't depend on your ability to predict prices, but rather on your mindset when facing uncertainty. Think about it. If it were just about technical skills, why do so many smart, well-informed traders still fail?
Because they ignore the most crucial component: emotional discipline. The market is a mirror that reflects our greatest weaknesses. It exposes our fear, our greed, our impatience. And that's precisely where most people stumble. Douglas spent decades studying the mental patterns that separate winners from losers, and he discovered a set of mental rules that the successful 10% follow religiously, while the other 90% don't even know they exist. Today, I'm going to share with you these 5 transformative rules that can completely change your journey, not just as a trader, but in any area of your life where you face uncertainty and risk. These rules form an interconnected chain, where each link strengthens the next. They're not just about trading, they're about developing a growth mindset, discipline, and consistency in the face of any challenge.
And the most incredible thing, the more you practice them, the more natural it becomes to act this way. That's why I ask you to watch this video until the end. Each rule connects to the next, and skipping parts might break your understanding of the complete system. So, let's start with the first and most fundamental rule that successful traders master and that most people completely ignore. Rule number 1. Embrace uncertainty as the only certainty. This rule seems simple, but it's revolutionary when truly applied. Think about this. How many times have you entered a trade absolutely convinced you were right, only to see the market move in the opposite direction? That feeling of frustration, of not understanding how something so obvious went wrong, is precisely what Douglas identified as the first barrier to success. The truth is, the market offers no certainties, ever. Imagine you're sailing on the open sea. You might have the best boat, the best map, the best compass, but you can't control the wind or the waves. The amateur trader spends their life trying to predict the unpredictable, while the professional trader accepts the uncertain nature of the market and adapts their strategy to that reality. Mark Douglas would say, "Uncertainty isn't your enemy. It's the fertile ground where your edge can flourish." When you embrace uncertainty, each trade becomes just one among many, part of a larger process, and not a personal battle you need to win at all costs. It's like walking through a storm. You can spend energy trying to catch every raindrop, or you can simply open your umbrella and keep walking. This acceptance frees you from the burden of trying to control the uncontrollable. Imagine the happy sense of relief when you realize you don't have to be right all the time. You just need to manage your positions well when you're wrong. Rule number 2. Think in probabilities, not certainties. This rule is the natural extension of the first and completely transforms your approach. A common trader treats each operation as if it's definitive. This trade has to work out. While a well-rounded trader understands that success comes from the statistical analysis of multiple operations over time. It's like flipping a coin. In a single toss, it's impossible to predict the outcome, but over 100 tosses, the distribution tends to even out. Mark Douglas emphasized, "Thinking in probabilities means understanding that you don't need to be right every single time to be profitable. You just need your edge to manifest itself over time." Confident? How many times have you abandoned a strategy after 2 or 3 losses, only to find out it would have been profitable if you just stuck with it? Probabilistic thinking frees us from the tyranny of the immediate result. Imagine you've developed a strategy with a 60% win rate. That means that out of 10 trades, it's perfectly normal to have 4 losses. But the immature trader panics at the second loss, abandons the system, and never reaps the rewards of their statistical edge. This mindset applies to any area of life: diet, exercise, learning, relationships. Results are rarely immediate, but consistency in the process always prevails in the long run. Rule number 3: neutralize your emotions before acting. This might be the most challenging rule because it goes against our instinctive nature. Fear paralyzes us. Greed blinds us. Anger distorts our perception. In a fast-moving market, these emotions can be devastating. Imagine you're having a bad day, you've just lost money on a trade, and you decide to enter another position to make back the loss. At that moment, you're not reacting to the market, but to your emotions. Douglas observed, "Most traders don't lose money because their analysis is wrong, but because they trade in emotional states that compromise their ability to follow their own analysis." Neutralizing emotions doesn't mean ignoring or repressing them. It means recognizing them without allowing them to dictate your actions. It's like creating a space between stimulus and response. That moment to take a deep breath before making a decision. It's in that space that your freedom as a trader and as a person is born. Rule number 4: build unbreakable discipline. This rule is the foundation upon which all others rest. Discipline isn't glamorous, it's not exciting, but it's absolutely essential. It's doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. It's sticking to your trading plan, even when it seems boring, even when aggressive emotion screams at you to do the opposite. Imagine an Olympic athlete. They train every day, repeating the same movements for hours, regardless of the weather, their mood, or how they feel. It's that consistency that leads them to the podium. In trading, discipline means religiously respecting your risk limits, your trading hours, your predefined strategies. It means not increasing your position size when you're winning, not trying to chase losses when you're losing, not trading when conditions aren't ideal. Mark Douglas used to say, "Discipline isn't about perfection, it's about persistence." It's about doing the right thing enough times for it to become an automatic habit. And, surprised, here's the secret. Discipline is like a muscle that strengthens with use. Every time you resist the temptation to break your rules, that muscle gets stronger. Every time you stick to your plan, even when it's tough, your capacity for self-discipline grows. And what's most fascinating, this discipline in trading spills over into other areas of your life. You start to realize you can apply the same rigor to your health habits, your studies, your relationships. Discipline becomes part of your identity. Rule number 5: transform consistency into identity. This is the culminating rule, the point where the other 4 converge to create a profound transformation. It's not just about applying techniques or following a set of instructions. It's about becoming a different kind of person. Someone who naturally thinks and acts with consistency. When you internalize the previous 4 rules, something magical happens. You stop relying on external motivation or momentary willpower. Trading ceases to be a constant battle against your own emotions and becomes a fluid exercise in self-mastery. Mark Douglas observed, "The complete trader doesn't try to beat the market. They work in harmony with it because they understand that the real game takes place within their own mind." Happy! Imagine looking back after a year and realizing you're not the same person. You no longer react impulsively to market swings. You no longer feel that emotional roller coaster with every trade. You've developed a serenity that only comes when you have confidence in the process, regardless of short-term results. That's true freedom, not being at the mercy of external circumstances. Because you've built a solid internal foundation. These 5 rules form an interconnected system where each element reinforces the others. Accepting uncertainty, Rule 1, creates space for thinking in probabilities, Rule 2. Thinking in probabilities makes it easier to neutralize emotions, Rule 3, since you're not obsessed with the outcome of a single trade. Emotional neutrality is only sustained by discipline, Rule 4, and discipline, when consistently practiced, transforms into a new identity, Rule 5. It's a confident, virtuous cycle that, once started, gains its own momentum. But the inverse is also true. Breaking one rule compromises all the others. If you don't accept uncertainty, you can't think in probabilities. If you don't think in probabilities, you're fearful, at the mercy of your emotions. If you're dominated by emotions, you won't maintain discipline. And without discipline, you'll never develop the identity of a consistent trader. Let's examine how these rules apply in practice. Imagine a trader who has just analyzed a chart and identified a potential entry point. The common trader who ignores these rules thinks, "This is a perfect setup, it can't go wrong." They increase their position size because they're confident, ignore their stop-loss plan because this time it's different, and become obsessed with every price movement. When the market eventually moves against them, they panic, close the position at the worst possible time, and then spend hours ruminating about how unfair the market was. The trader who applies the 5 rules, however, thinks, "This setup has a good probability based on my analysis, but the outcome is uncertain." They maintain their position size according to their risk plan, clearly define their stop-loss and profit target, and then, most importantly, emotionally detach from the outcome. If the trade is successful, great. If not, that's okay too. It's just one among many, part of a larger process they trust. With this mindset, they avoid the emotional drain that compromises most traders. Mark Douglas used to say that the market is a great teacher if you're willing to learn its lessons. And the most valuable lesson the market teaches is that our biggest obstacles aren't in the charts or indicators, but in our own mental patterns. Let's explore more deeply how each of these rules manifests in a trader's daily life and how you can start applying them immediately. The beauty of these rules is that they work regardless of your trading style, time frame, or chosen market. Let's return to the first rule: embrace uncertainty as the only certainty. In practice, this means abandoning the search for the perfect setup or the ideal entry. Many traders spend years jumping from strategy to strategy, from indicator to indicator, believing there's a magic formula that will eliminate uncertainty. It's a dangerous illusion. Douglas warned, "The trader who doesn't accept uncertainty is constantly at war with the reality of the market." How do you implement this rule? Start by incorporating uncertainty into your vocabulary. Instead of saying, "This trade will work out," say, "This trade has potential based on my analysis, but the outcome is uncertain." This hopeful language adjustment creates a new mental pattern. Another powerful practice is to log your trades in a journal, noting not just the results, but also your expectations before entering the trade. Over time, you'll notice how often the market behaves in unexpected ways, even with the most promising setups. This awareness gradually dissolves the illusion of control. Remember, uncertainty isn't your enemy. Trying to deny it is what creates suffering. The second rule, think in probabilities, not certainties, fundamentally transforms your relationship with wins and losses. Amateur traders live on an emotional roller coaster, euphoric with wins, devastated by losses. Professional traders, on the other hand, see each trade as just one roll of the dice in a game where the statistical edge reveals itself over time. Douglas emphasized, thinking in probabilities frees you from the need to be right on every single trade. How do you develop this mindset? First, be clear about your expected win rate. If your strategy has a 60% chance of success, you know that 4 out of 10 trades will likely result in a loss, and that's completely normal, part of the process. Second, track your results in series of 20 or 30 trades, not individually. This shifts your focus from the individual trade to the process as a whole. Third, and perhaps most importantly, completely disassociate your sense of identity from short-term results. You're not a loser because you had 5 consecutive losses, nor a genius because you hit 5 in a row. You are simply someone applying a system based on probabilities, where streaks of wins and losses are statistically expected. The third rule, neutralize your emotions before acting, is particularly challenging because emotions are extraordinarily powerful. Fear, greed, hope, regret, these mental states can completely hijack your reasoning ability. Mark Douglas observed, emotions distort your perception of market reality. A rising market seems even stronger when you're optimistic, and a falling market seems even scarier when you're afraid. How do you practice emotional neutrality? First, learn to recognize your emotional triggers. For some, it's a string of losses. For others, it's seeing the market take off after they've closed a position with a small profit. Identify the scenarios that trigger emotional reactions in you. Second, develop a pre-trading ritual that helps you enter a neutral mental state. It could be meditation, deep breathing, a walk, or simply reviewing your trading plan. Third, when you feel intense emotions during trading, have the discipline to take a break. Stand up, walk away from the screen, breathe. That small interval can make all the difference between an impulsive decision and a conscious choice. The fourth rule, build unbreakable discipline, is serious where most traders stumble. It's easy to follow rules when things are going well. The real test comes when we face adversity. Douglas said, "Discipline isn't about never making mistakes. It's about correcting them quickly when you do." How do you strengthen your trading discipline? Start with simple, specific rules, fixed trading hours, clear risk limits per trade, objective criteria for entries and exits. The clearer and more specific your plan, the easier it will be to follow. Next, implement an accountability system. This could be a mentor, a study group, or simply a detailed log of every time you violate your own rules. Transparency is a powerful motivator for discipline. Finally, understand that discipline is like a muscle. It develops gradually. Don't expect transformation overnight. Celebrate small victories. Every time you resist the temptation to break your rules, you're strengthening your self-discipline muscle. The fifth rule, transform consistency into identity, is the culmination of the entire process. It's when the rules stop being something you follow with effort and simply become who you are. Douglas noted, "The best traders don't need to remind themselves to follow their rules. Following them becomes as natural as breathing." How do you facilitate this transformation? First, surround yourself with positive examples. Find mentors or communities where a mindset of discipline and consistency is valued. Second, practice regular visualization. Imagine yourself reacting calmly and with discipline in situations that normally challenge you. The mind doesn't clearly distinguish between real and vividly imagined experience. Third, and perhaps most importantly, be patient. Identity transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's the accumulated result of small, consistent choices over time. The person you will be a year from now is created by the decisions you make today. Friends, we've reached the end of our journey through these 5 transformative rules that separate the 10% of successful traders from the 90% who fail. But in reality, we're just getting started. Because knowing these rules is only the first step. The energetic power lies in consistently applying them day after day, trade after trade, until they become second nature. Let's briefly recap what we've learned. Rule number 1, embrace uncertainty as the only certainty. When you stop fighting the unpredictable nature of the market and embrace uncertainty, you find a paradoxical freedom. Rule number 2, think in probabilities, not certainties. By viewing each trade as part of a statistical series, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of individual results. Rule number 3, neutralize your emotions before acting. Recognize your emotional states without allowing them to dictate your decisions. Rule number 4, build unbreakable discipline. Consistency in the process, regardless of circumstances, is what allows your statistical edge to manifest over time. And rule number 5, transform consistency into identity. When these practices become who you are, not just what you do, you achieve a level of mastery that few experience. Mark Douglas often reminded his students that trading is 80% psychology and 20% methodology. This proportion might seem exaggerated to beginners obsessed with indicators and strategies. But the longer you spend in the markets, the more clearly you realize the wisdom of those words. The truth is, almost any reasonable strategy can be profitable if applied with emotional discipline and consistency. And conversely, even the most sophisticated strategy will fail in the hands of someone who hasn't mastered these 5 mental rules. That's why we see so many traders jumping from system to system, always searching for the next miracle strategy, when the real work to be done is within themselves. The most fascinating thing about these rules is that their application transcends trading. They represent universal principles of self-mastery that can transform any area of your life. Think about relationships. Accepting uncertainty means understanding that we can't control other people. Thinking in probabilities means understanding that occasional conflicts are normal and don't define the overall quality of the relationship. Neutralizing emotions before acting prevents sad, impulsive words we later regret. Discipline means keeping commitments even when we're not in the mood. And consistency becomes identity when these behaviors become natural, not forced. Or consider your health, accepting that results aren't guaranteed. Understanding that progress comes from statistical consistency over time, not reacting emotionally to temporary setbacks, maintaining discipline in daily habits, and eventually becoming the kind of person for whom healthy choices are automatic. Douglas used to say that the market is the greatest teacher of self-discipline that exists if you're willing to learn its lessons. And perhaps that's the greatest gift of trading. It offers us an unsparingly honest mirror. Every trade, every decision, every emotional reaction reveals who we truly are in that moment. There's nowhere to hide in trading. Your results, over time, accurately reflect your level of self-discipline and emotional maturity. That's why trading can be so transformative. It doesn't just challenge us to grow, it shows us with crystal clarity where we need to focus that growth. So, what's your next step? How can you start implementing these 5 rules on your trading journey? I suggest starting small, but starting now. Pick one rule that resonates most with you, one where you feel you have the most room for immediate growth. Focus exclusively on it for 2 weeks. Keep a journal where you record your daily experiences with that rule. Where did you succeed? Where did you encounter difficulties? What patterns do you notice? After 2 weeks, add a second rule while maintaining focus on the first. Gradually, you'll build an integrated system of self-discipline that will transform not just your trading results, but your subjective experience of the markets. Remember, the ultimate goal isn't just to improve your results, though that will certainly happen. The goal is to transform the very experience of trading. Imagine entering a trade without that knot in your stomach, without that desperate need to be right, without that emotional roller coaster with every price tick. Imagine facing losses with equanimity, seeing them as simply part of the process, not as personal failures. Imagine the happy sense of freedom that comes from knowing that no matter what the market does today, you are following a process that works over time. This hopeful transformation of the internal experience is the true promise of these 5 rules. Douglas often told his students, "You're not trading the market, you're trading your beliefs about the market." This revolutionary perspective completely changes the game. If the problem isn't out there in the market, but in here in your mind, then you have power. Because while we can't control the market, we can, with practice, patience, and persistence, transform our own mindset. And when we do that, something magical happens. The market stops being an adversary to be conquered and becomes a dance partner, a teacher, even a friend who helps us grow. My friends, if you apply these 5 rules with consistency, you'll be positioning yourselves not just for financial success, but for hopeful, something far more valuable. And that, ultimately, is the greatest reward trading can offer. If this video brought you value, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and share it with a fellow trader who could benefit from these ideas. In the comments below, tell me which of these 5 rules resonated most with you and why. Your experience might help others on the same journey. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch until the end. Remember, the consistency you develop today creates the hopeful freedom you'll experience tomorrow. Until the next video, where we'll explore how to apply these same rules to develop a bulletproof trading plan. Take care.